Hello everyone, welcome to Perseverance IAS. This is Phani. Welcome to our Daily Editorial Analysis. If you are new here, my humble suggestion and request is to please subscribe to the channel. Then let us begin with the first article. Today's article is from the Hindu newspaper. This article is a little bit complicated article, right? First, there are certain claims that are made in this article that doesn't make complete sense, that are actually on the opposite of the contrary, but half of the article is really good and it is relevant. That is the part that we are going to discuss. So let us talk about climate change. Climate change is a particular problem, right? The author is from Australia. Australia and India are the two countries that would face the maximum damage because of climate change. India has a vast coastline like Australia. India's environment, ecology, and economy are dependent on climate. They are climate driven. Any fallout from climate change would severely impact all aspects of Indian society and Indian way of life. Similarly, it is the same case with Australia. They are going to experience extreme weather events that goes against their way of life. Similarly, we are also currently experiencing severe climate conditions, right? Weather events like superstorms, we are experiencing everything, sometimes out of turn, sometimes in turn. But nonetheless, the number of weather events, intensified weather events had significantly gone up. There is enough data right now to suggest that this is because of climate change. So the author of this article says India must commit to net zero emissions. See, India did not commit to net zero emissions. What we committed to was the Paris Climate Agreement that said that we are going to reduce our emissions. We are going to set certain targets for 2030 or 2022, 2060, 2050. There are certain targets that we have set in line with Paris Agreement, Paris Climate Accord. And to be pretty blunt and honest, of all the G20 countries that are signatory to the Paris Climate Agreement, India is currently the only country that is actually on track to fulfill its promises, and not only fulfill its promises but surpass the targets that it had set. I'll give you one example. By 2020, India wanted to install 170 million megawatts of solar power. This is 2021. We have installed 140. We are almost there. So the government decided that we are going to increase our goal. So we said that by 2030 we are going to increase that number double. The author of this article is saying that India is not doing that in this. See, we are not going to discuss that because I honestly think it's a waste of time. So let us talk about the part of the article that makes real sense. We have already established that India would be one of the worst hit countries because of climate change. Now, whenever we say climate change, whenever we say emission control, net zero emissions, whatever it is, what is one of the biggest argument that comes to your mind? See, since you are a developing country, there are certain trade-offs that would have to take place in order for you to become a net zero emission country. And as a result of it, your economy will take a hit, your manufacturing sector will take a hit, your job losses. So the compounding effect on your economy would be huge if you commit to a net zero emission promise. Now, here is the interesting thing. There is no longer a trade-off between reducing one's emission and that country's economic growth, because a country can sustain its economy, build its economy, a robust economy that is not dependent on few sectors but multiple other sectors, by pivoting or trying to support environmentally friendly industries. Let me give you an example, right? Let us take the example of solar. Way back in 2000, or at least let us go back 10 years, not even 20 years, let us go back to 2010. When you wanted to buy a solar panel, you would have to sell half of your house, kind of a deal. If you want to install solar on your house, solar panels, multiple solar panels, so that you substitute your electricity by solar, you would have to sell half of your house. That was the cost of a solar panel at that point of time. Now look at the numbers, right? Solar energy costs have fallen by 90% because the input cost has gone down. Because of the wide scale adaptation and subsidies given by governments around the world, solar panel prices have come down. As a result of it, subsequently, the electricity that is produced through solar energy has also significantly gone down. Right now, solar energy is providing the cheapest electricity in India, right? We have the best electricity from a renewable energy source. Now, let us look at the negative impacts of climate change. We already discussed our economy is going to take a hit. Now, this is where we have to, as a country, pivot so that Indian economy is not affected by climate change but becomes climate resilient. That should be the goal. Whatever the programs, whatever the schemes, whatever we announce, whatever the infrastructure project that we take up should be designed and planned and constructed in such a way that it is climate resilient. Because of the negative impacts that we have because of climate change, we should make our economy or the model of economic development as environmentally friendly as possible. And what do you think would be the biggest net effectors of climate change? Agriculture, right? If we don't maximize our productivity, we are going to face food shortages. Why? Because of these extreme weather events that I talked about earlier, we are going to see frequent flooding of our fields, and in worst case scenarios, in one area we are going to see flooding on the same thing, but on a different area we are going to see heavy droughts. And we know at this point of time these events are being caused as a result of climate change, right? So whatever the agricultural policy that the government of India is or wants to implement should consider these kinds of things also. You should consider every eventuality, the worst case possible. Then you have to plan your policy so that it gives you maximum productivity. That is how you face these kinds of ups and downs. Now it is for us, right? This is the point that I kind of understand and I like the most. Transition of the global economy to net zero emissions is the biggest commercial opportunity in the history. Yes, you know how money can be made, how your economy can be built? By providing efficient ways of energy generation to countries. Just look at the numbers. In energy sector alone, an estimated 1.6 to 3.8 trillion of investment is required every year until 2050. America spent $2.8 trillion in 20 years of its war and presence in Afghanistan. But in one sector, in energy sector alone, 1.6 to 3.8 trillion worth of investment had to be put in every year till 2050 to secure every country's energy needs. That is why we have to transform ourselves into supplying and investing in alternative sources of energy. We should support that sector in a significant way so that they move away from traditional methods of energy generation to renewable green methods of energy generation. That is why China is ahead, because China realized this way back. That is why they started investing heavily in technologies and new companies, right? It is the new economy. Energy sector is the new economy. Energy sector is going to be the new economy. So they started investing in technologies in that new economy, particularly in the areas of renewable energy generation and also storage. See, you have renewable energy being generated, but what you also need to answer is a better way of electric storage. so that you don't see the problem with current generation model is power generation model is there is a lot of wastage that takes place, because sometimes they have to utilize energy just so that the networks don't get overloaded. So that is a waste. If you had a proper storage mechanism, if you had a very safe and secure and proper high capacity storage technology, that is an investment that any country will be willing to pay for. Not only that, you have the alternative energy for transportation, which is electricity. That is already proven. Tesla, other electric car companies have proven that you can sustain a way of life with electric cars. Still, if there is some skepticism, you have hydrogen transport, right? You have hydrogen technologies that are competent enough right now to compete with electric cars and outperform electric cars. Compared to recharging an electric vehicle, recharging an hydrogen transport vehicle is much easier, right? These industries are low emission industries. See, I cannot tell you whether electric vehicles are low emitting vehicles or not, because there is a lot of evidence that suggests that the electricity that charges your vehicle may end up be polluting more than your petrol vehicle or diesel vehicle. So we are not going into that, but at least let us consider the hydrogen transportation. Your output is just water. So hydrogen transport is where I would hedge my bets. If you are asking me on a personal note, where would you invest your money? Where would you invest your R&D? Where you would invest your resources? I would say hydrogen transportation technologies, hydrogen technologies. That is why you have industries in India like Tata, Reliance, and other companies that are betting big on hydrogen technology. Let us look at the programs that government of India came up in the past. India came up with the International Solar Alliance. Now recently the government announced National Hydrogen Strategy. Reliance Industries promised some anywhere between 30,000 to 40,000 crore investment in exploring hydrogen technologies in our country. See, the more electricity gets or talked about, the less hydrogen technology gets talked about. But hydrogen technology is gaining leaps and bounds in terms of adaptation, understanding, and utilization. Now countries are planning green cities, sustainable forms of agriculture. You have schemes in India that are promoting agriculture, sustainable agricultural goals. Right? As I said in the beginning, India is set to significantly exceed its Paris Agreement commitments. Now we should use that to our advantage, right? We committed that we are going to reduce the emission intensities of the GDP by 33 to 35% below 2005 levels by 2030. We are on track to reach that. As I said earlier, in 2022, India kind of set its goals that we are going to installed. We are going to have an installed capacity of solar energy, installed capacity of 170 gigawatts by 2022. We have already 140 gigawatts of solar energy installation in our country. Now we have increased that target to 450 gigawatts by 2030, which can be easily achieved with the pace and with the way that we are going at it. India is leading on solar energy because we spearheaded the International Solar Alliance, which many countries are part of, many countries are taking advantage of. And with the recent announcement of the National Hydrogen Strategy, and corporate companies like Tata, Mahindra and Mahindra and Reliance, they themselves coming up and stepping up the ladder and saying that yes, we are going to become net zero companies by 2040, net zero companies by 2035, and Reliance going ahead and investing some 40 to 30,000 crores on hydrogen energy explorations. These are all the paths through which India can sustain its economy and transform its economy to become the net supplier of energy security, energy needs to the world. That is how India can leverage its at the place that we are in right now. See, environmental interest is India's national interest, right? As I said, the first impact of climate change is going to be on India. We have the largest coastline. Our coastlines are vulnerable, right? Our agriculture is vulnerable. As a result of it, our economy is also vulnerable. India can turn this climate action to advantage its national interests. The first thing that the author argues here is that India is going against the idea of waiting for outside support, meaning outside financial support, to drive our ambition in sustainable energy exploration, sustainable energy development or exploration. So, the idea is that India is a growing economy. India has reached a point in time in its growth phase where it is not very keen to receive such type of funding or financial support from other countries. But the author of this article is saying that you should you should accept support from outside that is well targeted, right? See, you don't have to accept every donation or every financial aid that comes your way. He says that India should be willing to choose well targeted financial investments and international partnerships to support India's climate ambition. That is how you leverage it. You don't discard anything. You pick and choose what you need, because India is at that position where it can pick and choose whom it wants to take money from and whom it wants to partner with and whom it wants to support financially. India is at that stage where it can pick and choose its partner. So depending on the advantages of picking a better partner, that is a partnership in a company, partnership with a country, partnership with an institution. So India has to use its power, its abilities to leverage, to find better partners to explore and fulfill its energy ambitions, climate ambitions. Right. The best way is to practical support and cooperation in areas like rolling out renewable energy and integrating with national grid. India needs new technologies to support its old national grids. India needs to introduce new grid technologies to reduce energy wastage. So there we can seek outside help. There we can see better technologies from outside world. Not only that, India can lead its interest or ambition in zero emissions transport. And India can also set a template for decarbonizing hard to abate sectors like steel, cement, and chemicals. Now, by sustainable agricultural methods, India can also decarbonize agricultural sector. It can set a template in any part where decarbonizing is a priority. Decarbonizing should be adopted. So India can set a template which other countries can emulate and copy. So not only that, India should be first in financing green technologies, right, for decarbonizing investments, right, financing for decarbonizing investments. There you can use financial aid so that you can bring in the private players, you can finance them, you can issue green bonds, you can issue climate transition bonds so that these companies can take part in it, but at the end of the day you will get money that can be reinvested into somewhere to explore some green technologies. See, it is high time for India to commit net zero emissions by 2050, but it should do it in a way that that is advantageous to its national interests and climate interests. As I said, half of the article I do not agree with, but the rest half, the part we talked about, that I agree with. Hope today's video has been helpful. Hope you had learned something new. Please do subscribe. Thank you. Stay safe. Namaste.